Hi, Bobby Thompson here with Crochet Guru, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to crochet this shell stitch baby bear hat. Okay, so before I get into the details, I really wanted to show you guys a quick picture of my twins wearing the bear hat. And honestly, all I do all day is take care of kids, clean, and crochet. So I use my kids as models pretty much all of the time. So I apologize if the pictures drive you crazy, but I would much rather show them off than myself. And honestly, I really feel like they make the cutest models. So I hope it's okay with you guys that I show them off every once in a while. Okay, so moving on. The hat we'll be crocheting today will fit a 3 to 6 month baby with a head circumference of 14 to 16 inches. Okay, so the materials needed for this hat: some soft worsted weight yarn, and I used Red Heart in colors Café, Latte, and Baby Pink. You're also going to need an H8 crochet hook, a stitch marker, a yarn needle, a button, and that's just a small button that matches the hat, and some scissors. Now to find the link to this pattern, go ahead and click on the description box below, and you'll find this pattern and more information about this pattern in that box. Okay, before we get started, just know that the chain 3 in the beginning of each round will count as a double crochet. For round 1, we're going to start with color A, which is Café Latte. We're going to start with a magic ring, chain 3, and then work 9 double crochets into the ring. Now, if you don't know how to crochet the magic ring, I'll provide a link to my video tutorial on that in the description box below as well. Okay, so I'm going to start with the magic ring or the magic circle. And again, I'm going to do this kind of quickly, so if you don't know how to do it, go to my link in the description box below, and I have a really detailed tutorial on how to do the magic circle. Okay, so now I'm going to take this a little bit slower, and after you complete the magic circle, we're going to chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And remember, this chain 3 will count as our first double crochet. Now we're going to work 9 double crochets into the ring. So go ahead and yarn over the hook, place your hook into the magic ring, yarn over, pull through the circle. There should be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. Okay, so let's go ahead and place 8 more double crochets into that magic ring. So there's 2. Oh, I'm getting a little stuck there. There's 3 double crochet. There's 4. Five. There's 6 double crochet. There's 7. And there's 8. And then 1 more makes 9. And that's going to be a total of 10 double crochet, because remember that first chain 3 is a double crochet as well. So go ahead and pull that magic circle closed. And now we're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet to join this circle together. Insert your hook into the top of the chain 3, and then yarn over, pull through the chain and through the loop on your hook to slip stitch. For round 2, we're going to chain 3. We're going to place 2 double crochet into each double crochet around, and then slip stitch into our first double crochet to join for a total of 20 double crochets. Okay, so before moving on to round 2, let's place our stitch marker into the very top of the last double crochet that we made. Okay, so now go ahead and chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to place 2 double crochets in each double crochet around. So remember that chain 3 is our first double crochet, so we only need to add 1 more double crochet to this first stitch. So there's 1 double crochet, and that will make a total of 2. And then we're going to place 2 double crochets in each stitch around. So there's 1, and then 2 into the same stitch, and then place another double crochet into the next stitch, and then 1 more into the same stitch, and then place 2 more into the next stitch. So there's 1 double crochet and 2, and then into the next double crochet we're going to place 2 more double crochets, so 1 and 2, and then again there's 1 and 2 double crochets, and then 1 and 2, and there's 1 double crochet and 2 into the same stitch, and then 1, and then a second double crochet into that same stitch. Now we'll be crocheting right above the stitch marker, and that's where our last 2 double crochets will go, is right above the stitch marker. Now before we slip stitch, let's go ahead and take our stitch marker and move it up a row and put it in the very last double crochet that we just made. And that will help us remember where our last double crochet is, so that way we can keep our places. And now let's go ahead and slip stitch into the next double crochet. And remember again, that's our chain 3. So go ahead and insert your hook into the top of the chain 3, yarn over, pull through the chain, and then the loop on our hook to join the circle. And that will make a total of 20 double crochets in that round. Okay, so for round 3, we're going to chain 3, we're going to double crochet into the next double crochet, and then we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next double crochet. And then we'll be repeating this 10 times. Okay, so for this first round, let's chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And again, this chain 3 will be our first double crochet. So we don't need to do anything else in this first stitch. So into the second stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2 double crochets into the second stitch. Now in the third stitch, we're only going to place 1 double crochet again. And then in the fourth stitch, we're going to go ahead and place 2 double crochets again. And then we're just going to repeat this pattern all the way around. So there's your second double crochet, and then again we're going to just place 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch we're going to place 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, again 1 double crochet, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. There's your second double crochet, and then 1 double crochet, and then 2 double crochets. Okay, so go ahead and finish up round 3 on your own, and if you need to, go ahead and pause the video right now, and I will meet you back here to finish off this round. Okay, so now to finish the round, go ahead and move your stitch marker up to the last stitch you just made. And then to finish off this round, remember to slip stitch into the first double crochet to join. Okay, so moving on to round 4, we're going to chain 3, we're going to double crochet into the next 2 double crochets, and then place 2 double crochets into the next double crochet. And we'll be repeating this 10 times. Okay, so go ahead and chain 3. And because that chain 3 is our first double crochet, all we need to do is add 1 more double crochet to the next stitch. So go ahead and add your double crochet to the next stitch. And now we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next double crochet. So there's 1 and 2 into the next double crochet. So we're just going to follow that pattern all the way around. So now we're going to place another double crochet into the next 2 double crochets. So there's 1 double crochet, and into the next stitch over, we're going to place the second double crochet. And then again, we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next double crochet. So there's 1, and in the same stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. And we're just going to keep following that pattern all the way around. So again, we're just going to place 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and then place another one into the next stitch over. And then we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2 into the same stitch. So now's a good time to pause the video and finish off this round, and I will meet you back here for round 5. Now before we move on to round 5, just remember to slip stitch into that first double crochet to join that last round. Okay, so now moving on to round 5, I'm going to show you a really fun stitch, and that's called the Shell-Fcr. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to do a Shell-Fcr, and then we're going to repeat that pattern 13 times. And what this stitch means is that it's a shell stitch, but we're going to use a front cross stitch instead of just the regular shell stitch. And before we do this, I just wanted to show you the definition for the Shell-Fcr. So go ahead and just read that pattern, and then I'll go ahead and show you how to do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is skip 2 stitches. Now I realize that the pattern says to only skip 1, But remember that the Shell-Fcr or shell front cross stitch also needs you to skip one stitch, and that's why we'll be skipping 2 stitches. Now the loop that's on your hook right now is right above the first stitch that we'll be skipping, and then we'll also be skipping the second stitch as well. Okay, so again, just skip those first 2 stitches, yarn over the hook, and then in that third stitch we're going to place our first shell. And so it's going to be 3 double crochets into the 1 stitch. So there's our first double crochet, there's our second in the same stitch, and there's our third in the same stitch. Okay, so now what we're going to do is called a front cross stitch. And to do this, we're going to cross over the front of the shell stitch we just made and place a double crochet into the second skip stitch, or in other words, the last skip stitch. So first yarn over, and then bring your hook around to the front of the last stitch made, insert your hook, and then make 1 last double crochet. And that is your very first shell front cross stitch. And now we need to do this stitch 12 more times in order to get a total of 13. Okay, so from now on we're going to be skipping 2 stitches, and then we'll place our Shell-Fcr into the third stitch. So place those first 3 double crochets into that third stitch. So there's 2 double crochets, and there's 3. Now again, we're going to take our hook, yarn over, and then place it in the last skip stitch by bringing it to the front and around all of the 3 stitches. And in that stitch, we'll place the last double crochet for this stitch. Okay, so I did go slow on that last stitch because I know that this stitch can be a little tricky, so I hope that slow motion helped. Okay, so again, skip 2 more stitches and place that Shell-Fcr in the third stitch. So there's your first double crochet into the third stitch. There's the second, and then your third. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute and show you where we're going to be inserting our hook. It's into the last skip stitch that we just skipped. Yarn over, bring that hook around and place that last double crochet. And again, make sure that double crochet is inserted into that last skip stitch. Okay, so I don't want to bore you guys, so I'll try to go a little bit faster so I don't make this too boring. Okay, so again, skip 2 stitches, and working in the third stitch, we're going to place our Shell-Fcr. So we start with the 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I got a little stuck, sorry, there's 3. Then we're going to go around the front again and work into that last skip stitch and place that last double crochet for this FCR. And we're just going to keep doing this all the way around, so skip 2 more stitches, place 3 double crochets into the third stitch, yarn over, work around those 3 stitches, into the skip stitch, place your last double crochet. Again, skip the 2 stitches, yarn over, place your hook into that third stitch, place your first double crochet, and then your second, and your third, and then yarn over, work around the front, into the last skip stitch, place your last double crochet. So this is what it should be looking like so far. And I'm going to just continue working with you guys because I know this is a little bit trickier. So again, in your third stitch, place your 3 double crochets. So there's 2, and there's 3. And then again, working around that stitch into the skipped stitch, place that last double crochet. Okay, so I hope you feel safe enough to finish this round on your own. So go ahead and pause the video and I will meet you back here to finish off this round with you. Okay, so to finish off this round, we're going to have 4 stitches left. So again, just skip your next 2 stitches and place that next Shell-Fcr to finish off this round. So yarn over, insert your hook into the third stitch, place 3 double crochets into that stitch. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then again, working around that stitch into the last skipped stitch, we're going to place that last double crochet to finish off this round. Okay, so now we're just going to slip stitch into the first double crochet to join. So the first thing you need to do is move your stitch marker up before we finish off this round. That way we don't get confused on where we are. So move that stitch marker up, locate your first double crochet, place your hook through that double crochet, yarn over, bring the yarn through the stitch and the loop on your hook to join. Okay, so round 6 through 13 is kind of a mouthful, so I'm going to let you read that on your own and just realize that it actually is easier than it looks. So just get familiar with the wording and then I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so just a quick note before moving on for round 6 through 13. Instead of placing the shell stitch into the stitches, place it into the spaces of the previous Shell-Fcr. Continue placing the FCR into the stitch behind the space. Again, I know this looks crazy and really confusing, but it's actually going to be easier than it looks. Okay, so starting on round 6, we're actually going to place our first stitch into this first space right below our stitch marker. So again, just yarn over and place that first double crochet into that space, and we're just going to make our first Shell-Fcr. So there's 1 double crochet, there's 2, and there's that 3rd double crochet. Now we're going to place our front cross stitch into the stitch behind the space. So we're basically just going to place that front double crochet in the stitch where the stitch marker is. So this will be our first Shell-Fcr on the 6th row. Now we need to repeat this 12 times for a total of 13. So go ahead and locate your second space and place your next shell. So again, we're just going to place 3 double crochets into that next space. So there's 1 double crochet, there's 2, and there's 3. Okay, so now place a front cross stitch by placing your hook into the first stitch behind the space again. So we're just going to continue this pattern around the hat, and just remember we're going to be doing the exact same thing for the next 7 rows. So again, locate your next space, and we're going to place 3 double crochets into that next space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then place a front cross stitch into the first stitch behind the space again. Find your next space and place 3 more double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then place a front cross stitch in the first stitch behind the space. Okay, I'm going to do this one more time with you, and I'm going to let you finish off this round. So there's your last double crochet into that next space, and then place your front cross stitch into the first stitch behind the space again. Okay, so finish this round and I'll be back to show you how to join. Okay, let's join this round. So let's go ahead and take this stitch marker out and place it in your last stitch that you just barely made. And now all we're going to do is just slip stitch into the first double crochet to join. So go ahead and locate the first double crochet in this round, and they can be a little tricky sometimes, so you kind of have to pull the stitches apart to find that first double crochet. And then when you find it, insert your hook, yarn over, bring through the stitch and the loop on your hook, and that's your slip stitch. Okay, so round 7 through 13 are going to be crocheted the exact same way we just crocheted round 6. So I'm going to let you do that on your own. If you need any help, remember to go back to minute 15:11 and just repeat that round 7 more times. So I hope you're excited because we just finished our hat. So now let's go ahead and take our scissors and cut our yarn, leaving about 6 inches or so for weaving in. Now all we need to do is just pull that loose tail end of yarn through the loop on our hook and just tighten it up. Now go ahead and grab your yarn needle and just weave that tail end through all of those bottom stitches. And I just like to go back and forth through as many stitches as I can. And when you feel like it's secure, you can go ahead and cut that tail end of yarn off. Also, don't forget to cut the yarn strand that's inside your hat as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the ears. Okay, so for the ears, we're going to start with color A, which is our baby pink, and we're going to start with a magic ring. We're going to chain 3, which will be our first double crochet, and then we're going to work 9 double crochets into the ring and then pull it closed and then slip stitch to join. Okay, so I apologize about this ugly background, but I think it's going to be easier for you to tell what I'm doing. So first start with the magic ring, and I'm going to move through the magic ring pretty quickly. After you get done with the magic ring, let's go ahead and chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, that's our first double crochet. And now let's work 9 more double crochets into the ring. So there's 1 double crochet, 2, 3, there's 4, and there's 5, there's 6, 7, there's 8. I kind of keep getting stuck a little bit. And there's 9. So with that 9, that will give us a total of 10 double crochets with our first chain 3. Now pull the ring closed. And now let's go ahead and slip stitch into our first double crochet to join. So go ahead and insert your hook into the top of that first chain that we made, and then yarn over and pull that yarn through the stitch and the loop on the hook. Moving on to round 2, we're going to attach color B, chain 4, triple crochet into the same stitch, and then work 2 triple crochets into the next 8 double crochet stitches. Also take note that the chain 4 does count as a triple crochet. Alright, so now it's time to attach our color B, which is the color Café Latte, and I'm just going to go ahead and insert that right into that last loop, and then we're going to chain 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, that counts as your first triple crochet. Now we're going to triple crochet into the exact same stitch that you just made your chain. And we're going to do this by yarning over the hook 2 times, inserting that hook into the same stitch as your chain, yarn over and pull through the stitch. There should now be 4 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. There should now be 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops on your hook. There should be 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook to make a triple crochet. Now we're going to work 2 triple crochets into the next 8 double crochet stitches for a total of 18 triple crochets. So go ahead and yarn over the hook twice, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through the stitch, and then place your next triple crochet. Then after that, go ahead and yarn over 2 more times, place your hook into the same stitch, and place the second triple crochet. Remember, we're going to do this exact same thing in the next 7 stitches. So now let's place 2 more triple crochets into the next stitch. So there's 1 triple crochet, and then there's 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and speed up the track to finish off the rest of these triple crochets. So if you need to pause the video right now to catch up, go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is what the ear should be looking like after you're done, and I can't wait to put this on my hat. I think it's going to be so cute. Okay, so now it's time to grab your scissors and cut the tail end, leaving about maybe 10 inches or so for weaving in, and then go ahead and pull that yarn strand through the loop on your hook, tighten it up, and what we'll do is we'll take a yarn needle and we'll start stitching all of these loose ends into the ear. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just speed up the track again so that you don't have to sit and watch me sew in all of these loose ends. Okay, so moving on, this is what your ear should look like when we're all finished. So go ahead and crochet yourself another ear for the hat, and then we'll move on to the small flower. If you need to rewind this video to crochet the second ear, go back to minute 1927. Okay, so for the small flower with color B, start with a magic ring, work 15 single crochets into the ring, pull the ring closed, and then slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. Okay, so with baby pink, I'm going to go ahead and make a magic ring, and I'm going to go through this quickly again. And now let's work 15 single crochets into the ring. So there's 1 single crochet, and there's 2, there's 3, 4, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pull the ring closed. Now, it's okay if you have a little hole in the middle of your work. That's pretty normal with 15 single crochets. And now all we have to do is just slip stitch into that first single crochet to join. For round 2, we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. We're going to place 3 double crochets into the next stitch and then slip stitch into the next stitch. We'll be repeating this 5 times around, and we'll be making 5 petals. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in round 2 is we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So go ahead and find your next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the stitch and the loop on your hook. In the next stitch, we're going to place 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochets all into the same stitch. Now in the next stitch, just place another slip stitch. And that's your first petal. So now go ahead and make another petal. So slip stitch into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch place 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And again in the next stitch, just place another slip stitch. And that will be your second petal. So again, another slip stitch, and then 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3, all into the same stitch, and then a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then another slip stitch into the next stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to place 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and then 3, and then again place another slip stitch. Okay, so we just have 1 more petal to make, so another slip stitch, and then in the next stitch another 3 double crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and then 3. So now we just need 1 more slip stitch to finish off this flower. Now all we need to do is just fasten off the flower and weave in the loose ends. So I'll go ahead and move through this part pretty quickly so that way we can get to the next flower. So again, just fasten off your flower and then take your yarn needle and weave in those loose ends. Moving on to the large flower, I'm going to go ahead and let you read this on your own, and then we'll get started. Okay, so again, we're just going to start with the magic ring. And now we're going to chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now let's go ahead and work 9 more double crochets into the ring. So there's 1, 2, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Go ahead and pull the ring closed. Take your stitch marker and place it in that last stitch that you just made. And now all we need to do is just slip stitch into the first double crochet to join. For round 2 of the large flower, we're going to chain 3. We're going to place 2 double crochets in each double crochet around and then slip stitch to join. Let's first start out by chaining 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to place 2 double crochets in each double crochet around. And remember that the chain we just made counts as your first double crochet. So we only need 1 more double crochet into this next stitch. So place 1 more double crochet into the next stitch, and that will count as 2 double crochets. So now from now on, we're just going to place 2 double crochets in each stitch around. So there's 1 and 2, and then 2 more double crochets into the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2 double crochets, 2 more into the next stitch, 1 and 2. Just keep doing this all the way around. So 2 more into the next stitch, 1, and there's 2, then into the next stitch, 1 and 2. So go ahead and just finish up round 2 on your own, and when you're finished, make sure you have 20 double crochets. Okay, so to finish round 2, all we need to do is just slip stitch into our first stitch to join, and again, just make sure you have 20 double crochets. For round 3, we're going to start making our flower petals, so go ahead and read up on the pattern, and then I'll walk you through it step by step. So the first thing we'll do in round 3 is slip stitch into the next stitch, and now we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So there's 1 double crochet, and there's 2 into the same stitch, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing into the next stitch. So place 2 double crochets into the same stitch again, and now we need to slip stitch into the next stitch. So here's your first petal. So now we just need to repeat what we did 5 more times. So into the next stitch we're going to slip stitch, and then into the next stitch we're going to place 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, and then again into the next stitch we're going to place another 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, and then we're going to slip stitch. Okay, so I'll do 1 more petal and then I'll let you finish up the last 2 petals on your own. Okay, so let's slip stitch into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2. In the next stitch 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2, and then place a slip stitch into the next stitch. Okay, so go ahead and finish off those last 2 petals, and then I will meet you back here to fasten off and weave in the loose ends. Now that the big flower is finished, let's go ahead and take our scissors and cut the yarn, leaving about 10 inches for weaving. Pull that loose strand of yarn through the loop on your hook, pull it tightly, and then take your yarn needle and weave in both of those loose ends. For the ear assembly, we're going to place the ears at an angle behind the 5th row, and then we're going to stitch them into place using color A. So for sewing in the ears, you can sew the ears right on top of the hat, just like this, but I actually find it works better to bring the ears down at an angle and sew the ears right along the 1st row of the shell front cross stitches, just like this. So if you choose to sew the ears in at an angle, remember to sew them in right behind round 5. It actually looks pretty cute and lays on the baby's head really well this way. So go ahead and thread color A through your yarn needle, and then grab your ear, And I like to insert my yarn into the ear first, so go ahead and do that. Leave a little bit of a tail so that we can weave that in later. And before we stitch the ear into the hat, just make sure that the yarn is really threaded into the ear and really secure into the ear. So I go back and forth through the ear a couple of times. Okay, so I'm going to actually attach this ear onto the left side of my hat just because my yarn is on the left side of the ear. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but just locate a good spot to place the ear. And again, you kind of just have to eyeball it. And now just start stitching back and forth through the ear and the hat. And don't worry if the stitches aren't perfect or if they look a little ugly, because with using the same color of yarn as the hat, you're not really going to see those stitches anyway. Okay, so moving on to the second ear, just try to place it in the same position that you placed the last ear, so that way they match up. And now let's go ahead and just stitch that ear into place. So as you can see, my ears are not perfect and they're not perfectly placed, but as long as they're somewhat similar in their placement, they'll be just fine. For our flower assembly, we're going to first use color B and stitch the small flower onto the large flower. Grab both your flowers, put them together, the small one on top of the large, and just kind of place them however you want. And then using your pink yarn, just go ahead and stitch them together, going back and forth. And you don't have to worry about getting it too tight or too secure because we're going to secure it to the hat later on with the button anyway. Now all we're going to do is just use color B again and stitch the button onto the flower and the hat. So find a cute spot on your hat where you'd like your flower to go. And here's the thing about the button. The size of the buttonholes really make a difference. So if your buttonholes are large enough to fit your yarn needle, I would just do that. But if your buttonholes are small, then you're going to want to use some thread and a thread needle instead. Now the button I'm using has holes that are large enough to fit my yarn needle, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. We are finally almost finished with our hat. And all we have to do now is weave our yarn in and out of the buttonholes and then stitch our flower onto the hat. So when I'm sewing my flower, I prefer to sew the buttons onto my flower first, just because I feel like it's easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew the flower onto the hat later. But you guys do it however you feel and however it's comfortable for you. Okay, so yay, we're almost done. All we got to do is just stitch the flower onto the hat now. So I'm just using my pink yarn, but if you don't like the pink to show through on the other side of the hat, go ahead and use your brown yarn instead. So that's just kind of up to you guys. We finally finished our bear hat, yay! Well, I hope you guys liked this video and thank you so much for watching. And if you're interested in watching my crochet fan stitch baby blanket tutorial, go ahead and click on the picture above. And if you like my videos and want to see more, I would absolutely love it if you subscribed. Thanks very much and have a great day.